Each week, we bring you a story from CBS Village, the CBS News website that highlights diverse communities. This week, we are taking you to Texas and a trendy Dallas neighborhood that was once settled by freed slaves. Back then, it was called Freedman Town, and there is a plan to preserve its stories. Robbie Owens from CBS News Texas has more.
Katie Johnson Warren was my paternal grandmother. She was an enterprising woman who lived here when it was Freedman Town. She purchased this property in 1916.
More than a century later, Warren's two-story home is prime real estate in what is now called Uptown. Granddaughter Kathleen Sanders was both curious and concerned that the Freedman story was being lost.
I mean, there was segregation. There were so many limitations in mainstream society, but in Freedman Town, people felt comfortable. People felt like they could live.
The family has no plans to sell the home, but Sanders is eager to share her grandmother's story. She recalls tidbits from older relatives.
She talked about coming into the house as a little girl, probably in the early 30s, and passing by the parlor here, filled or brimming, as she said, brimming with white people waiting to see Katie for counsel because she was a clairvoyant.
Was she clairvoyant or was she just savvy?
That is the $64 question, and we explore that in the documentary.
The documentary includes academic voices as well, sharing painful truths.
And then there's all this violence that sort of takes place, where, again, former slave masters are literally beating up, killing, trying to reestablish slavery. Freedmen towns where African Americans were safe to live without violence from whites.
But why was it so important to tell the story of Freedman Town?
Inspiration.
And perhaps, she adds, encouragement to explore your own family stories.
Sometimes we have to encourage our elders to share, because struggle and suffering is not always what people want to talk about, the hard times. But those hard times are monumental in terms of how they have prepared us for this moment.
Oh, such an amazing story. Robbie Owens joins us now. Robbie, I mean, there's just so much history in plain sight all around us. Thank you so much for sharing this story. What's something that you weren't able to include that you'd like to share?
Oh, Adriana, I loved what Kathleen shared about what she learned about exactly perhaps how her grandmother was viewed as a clairvoyant. Well, apparently she learned that all of her grandmother's wealthy white clients at the time, well, they regarded the help as invisible. So they spoke freely in front of them. Well, that help realized that there was a pretty lucrative side hustle to be had by sharing what they overheard with Katie Johnson Warren. The better the tip, the more money they'd earn. So voila, a clairvoyant is born. Definitely savvy.
That is brilliant. I love that, Robbie. Thank you so much for bringing us that story and that little behind the scenes tidbit. We really appreciate you and your team.